It's the law.
Welcome to It's the Law, a program produced and presented by the Guyana Association of Women Lawyers. On this program, a member of the association gives us an in-depth look at Guyana's laws. The contributor on today's program is Tavera Franklin. She will be talking about police powers under the Police Act.
Please note that the information provided does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice, and there has been no attorney-client relationship formed in the use of this information. Please seek legal advice from an attorney at law for your individual legal needs. So today's topic is police powers of search. Here we will discuss the power to search before an arrest, after an arrest, tips on what to do if you're stopped by the police, the power of entry and search of private premises with or without a warrant, and tips on what to do if the police arrive with a search warrant. As a general rule, the police have no right to stop and search you if you have not been arrested, unless they have reasonable grounds for suspecting that you are carrying prohibited drugs, stolen goods, or firearms. The fact that the police don't find what they're looking for doesn't mean that they didn't have reasonable grounds for searching. But if you refuse to allow the police to search you, you may be arrested and you are likely to be searched at the police station. The matter will then be decided by the court, and you may be found guilty of obstructing a police officer in the execution of his or her duty. So what should you do if you are stopped by the police? Before you agree to be searched, ask if you are being arrested. Ask what the police are looking for and under what authority they intend to search you. If they do not give reasonable grounds for wanting to search you, you need not agree to being searched. You can use reasonable force to protect yourself against an illegal search, but it is usually better to make a complaint and/or bring an action later. When possible, ensure that anyone who is with you stays to watch you being searched. They may be needed as witnesses later. If you agree to be searched but want it done privately, ask to be searched at the police station. Try and take the witnesses with you. Remember, you are going to voluntarily and can leave as soon as you have been searched, unless you are then being arrested. If the police officer is in plain clothing, ask to see his identification card. If an officer is in uniform, take note of the badge number, and as soon as possible, make a note of any conversation between you and the officer and sign and date it. It may be useful later if you are charged with an offense or want to make a complaint. Please note that you can only be searched by an officer of the same sex as yourself. In terms of search after an arrest, if you have been arrested without a warrant, the police may search you and seize any weapons and anything that can be used as material evidence for prosecution. They cannot search your premises without your consent, unless they get a warrant for that purpose or have entered your house with your consent in the course of making the arrest. In terms of entry and search of private premises without a warrant, the police have no general power to enter or search your home or any other private premises without a warrant. They have a right of entry only in order to stop a breach of the peace or prevent one which is likely to occur, or to stop someone being seriously harmed. In all other cases, the police may not enter or search your premises without your consent. Once you withdraw your consent and ask them to leave, they must do so. If they refuse, they will be trespassers, and you may use as much force as is reasonably necessary to make them leave. Alternatively, you may decide not to use force, but to take legal proceedings against the police. Entry and search with a warrant, however. A search warrant entitles the police to enter and search your premises without your consent, and to use reasonable force to do so. It can only be obtained from a magistrate or justice of the peace on the strength of a statement sworn by a police officer that he or she has reasonable grounds for searching. Warrants may be obtained to search for a wide range of things, including illegal drugs, firearms, and stolen goods. Powers given under a warrant vary and may include the power to search people found on the premises or to seize goods when they are not specified in a warrant. Powers of arrest are often contained in a warrant. Most warrants expire after they have been used once, so police cannot demand re-entry on the same warrant. However, some warrants can be used more than once and authorize entry at any time. So what do you do if police arrive with a search warrant? First, you ask to see the warrant and read it carefully. The police would only have to show it to you once. It will tell you what the police can and cannot do. You have the right to read it, and you need not let in the police until you have read it. Check the address of the premises to be searched in the warrant. You can refuse entry if the premises are not properly identified. You can refuse entry to adjoining premises, for example, a flat over a shop, if only the shop is named in the warrant. Ask to see the warrant card of the officer in charge. It will help you to check the callers are genuine police officers and help you to identify the police officer if you need to make a complaint about any illegality in the way the search was carried out. If you're alone, try to contact a lawyer or someone else to come and witness the search. If the police refuse to let you make a phone call, do your best to see what the police take. If possible, someone should watch every area that is being searched. Unless the warrant says that the police may search you or anyone else in the premises, and remember, you can only be searched by an officer of the same sex as you. You can refuse to be searched. If the police come late at night, ask them to return in the day. A search should only take place between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. unless the warrant allows it to be carried out outside of these hours. Finally, ask for a receipt for anything that the police may take with them. On this episode, we'll be looking at police powers of arrest, where we discuss what is an arrest, arrests with and without a warrant, what officers should do when making an arrest, and what you should do after you have been arrested. Citizens' arrests and assisting inquiries will also be discussed. So what is an arrest? An arrest is the formal procedure by which a person is taken into custody to answer a charge. In some cases, a person can only be arrested by a police officer with a warrant. In others, he or she can be arrested without a warrant, and not only by a police officer, but by a private citizen, which will be discussed later. A warrant is a document signed by a magistrate or a justice of the peace, which directs a police officer to arrest a person suspected of having committed an offense. A warrant cannot be issued to a private citizen. In order to get a warrant, a police officer must give the magistrate details of the case in a written and sworn statement. The magistrate will then decide whether to issue a warrant. A warrant must include the name of the person to be arrested and a description of the offense in simple language. If the offense was created by a written law, there should be reference to the relevant provision in the law. No claims for damages can be made against a police officer who arrests someone under a warrant that turns out to not have been properly issued. What should you do if you are arrested with a warrant? First, ask to see the warrant. A police officer can arrest you without having the warrant with him, but it must be shown to you as soon as possible after the arrest. Check that your name is on the warrant. Even if you think that the warrant may not be valid, do not resist arrest, as this may lead to further charges. You can be arrested without a warrant by a police officer if the officer has seen you commit an offense, if someone charges you with having committed an offense and gives undertaking to prosecute the charge, if the officer finds you disturbing the peace, if the officer reasonably suspects you to have committed or about to commit an offense or a breach of the peace, or if the officer finds you lying or loitering between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. and you cannot give a good account of yourself. Except for serious offenses, a police officer should not arrest you if you give him your name and permanent address. If you are arrested without a warrant, you must be told in simple language and be given the reason for your arrest. If you are not told why you are being arrested, you should ask. The police officer is duty-bound to tell you unless you are caught red-handed, so that an explanation is not needed, or you make an explanation impossible by resisting arrest. Even then, the officer must give the reason for the arrest as soon as possible. Members of the public are under a duty to help a police officer in making an arrest if called upon to do so. Now we'll talk about a citizen's arrest. A citizen's arrest is quite different from that of a police officer's arrest. You can arrest anyone who commits a breach of the peace in your presence, and anyone who you suspect has committed or is about to commit a serious offense. But you should think twice before doing so, as you can be sued for damages if you arrest the wrong person, or an offense has not in fact been committed. If a police officer asks you to go to the police station with him or her to assist with inquiries, for questioning or any other purpose, but does not say that they are arresting you, you do not have to go. If you refuse, they may arrest you. If he or she tells you that they are arresting you, it is better not to resist, as this may involve further offenses. If you are arrested wrongfully, you may be able to sue the police for false imprisonment. When making an arrest, a police officer should identify himself by giving their badge number and the station at which they are based. They should also take you directly to the nearest police station, and only use such force as is reasonably necessary. Force will not be justified if you do not resist arrest. Handcuffing is only justified if it is reasonably necessary to stop you escaping or to prevent violence. After you have been arrested, it is advisable that you see a lawyer. You have the right to legal advice in private. If you do not know a lawyer, ask your relatives or friends to find one. Generally speaking, you have the right to make at least one telephone call. It is better not to answer any questions or sign any documents until you have spoken with your lawyer. If you are assaulted or otherwise injured, demand to be taken to a doctor for treatment. Make sure that you get a medical certificate. You can refuse to let police take your fingerprints. If you do refuse, the police may then apply to a magistrate to make an order that your fingerprints be taken without your consent. If your fingerprints are taken with a court order and you are later acquitted, all the copies of the records and your fingerprints must be destroyed. The same applies to taking your photograph. The police should either charge or release you with or without station bail within 72 hours of arrest. This is in accordance with your constitutional right under Article 139(4). You can ask for bail, and the police should grant it if they are satisfied that A. you will return to the station when requested, and B. your release will not hamper their inquiries. If you are held for an unreasonably long time without being charged and taken before a magistrate or placed on bail, you can take legal action to be released. This is the end of this episode. I hope this information will be of assistance.
You have been listening to It's the Law, a program produced and presented by the Guyana Association of Women's Lawyers. The contents of this program are not to be taken instead of legal advice.